Okay, all right, I now call the August 6th, 2025 meeting of the Allen Town Planning Board to order. 3 p.m. I want to start the meeting with the pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And we'll start up with a roll call. State your name.
Mike Grassanella.
Rush.
Jack Pelletier.
And remotely. We have Ryan
Ryan.
and Caitlin.
Caitlin, can you hear us? Caitlin, can you hear us? Caitlin's here, we're right back to electronic.
Yeah. Visually, and I think of Brian.
You got
Yep. Yeah, and Matt.
Yeah, I can hear you guys. Can you hear me?
Yeah, thank you, Matt.
All right.
It looks like we have a couple of guests, Eric and Don, Eric.
Eric Wagner. Eric DeBrule. And Sean Kelly remotely. And Ryan Arsenal remotely.
Okay. And representing the owner.
My name is Colin Harris. I'm with Fuller Engineering.
And members of the public also.
And members of the public. State your names. Please start.
Deborah Gomez Novicki, I'm a resident in. I'm Brenda Brown, resident in town. Diana Alpha, resident, Board of Selectmen.
Nick Morrison, lifetime resident.
Rich Jeunesse, or part owner of which is right next door to his.
And that's everybody. Waiting. Okay,
Mike, can we put Caitlin on the call as well?
not, no, not. Let me see if I have,
She said she can only hear every fifth word.
yeah, that's a problem. Let's see if I can. You're texting her?
No.
No, I'm gonna call myself.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. She has the number, oh, she has. She didn't. Okay. Good to go. Very good. All right, so before we go anything further, Mr. Vice Chairman, the board does have to vote to allow Ryan Baldry to participate remotely, so we do need a motion for.
So-
In a second. Second. Roll call vote.
First, aye.
Joanna, I.
Mike J. Aye. Motion carries.
Motion carries. Very good, thank you.
Next on the agenda is whole business. Anybody have anything, either member have any whole business to bring up? Okay, we'll proceed right on with new business then. We have a major site plan application from the Collins Restaurant. Proposed to be located at 77 First Turnpike Street, map number 109, lot number 13, totaling 1.93 acres. The applicant proposes redeveloping the site of the Obashan by raising the existing structure and replacing it with a new 3,694 square foot McDonald's restaurant with seating for 34 people and 2 drive-through lanes accessed from Turnpike Street. The applicant also proposes making changes along the front of the property on Turnpike Street to direct vehicular or pedestrian access and egress through a designated driveway and other associated landscape improvements. The conditional use permit application will be considered during this meeting. If all progresses and a previously noticed public hearing is scheduled to be conducted by the planning board during its consideration of the application. If the public hearing is continued to a future date, the hearing will not be renoticed.
Fair.
So, next up, Connor. Mind
You're up.
presenting the application?
No problem. So good evening, everyone. Thank you for taking time out of your night to hear this application. My name is Connor Ennis. I'm with Bowler Engineering. We represent the applicant, McDonald's USA LLC. To present this application. But before I go over what's being proposed, as part of this project, I just want to touch on the existing conditions of the site. So the subject property is 77 Turnpike Street in Allentown, also identified as map 109 lot 13. The site is within the Business B and the Groundwater Protection Overlay Districts and is bound by Turnpike Street to the east, Pinewood Road to the south, Allentown Road to the west, and some single family homes and School Street and River Road to the north. Under existing conditions, a Aubuchon hardware store exists on the property along with paved parking and staging areas. I also want to note that the site is entirely paved around the limits of the property. And there are no natural resources located on site, including wetlands, surface waters, or with that, McDonald's is looking to redevelop the property and raise the existing site and reconstruct. Thank you. And reconstruct construct a new 3,694 square foot McDonald's restaurant with 35 seats and a side-by-side drive-through consisting of 2 lanes and 2 order points, which are down to 1 to get to the cash and pickup windows. Also proposed on site are new paved parking areas, landscaping, utility connections, and stormwater management system. Overall, this layout provides 42 proposed parking spaces, which meets the minimum required 26 spaces calculated for a restaurant use. One-way circulation is proposed around the site with 1 full access drive to the Turnpike Street. With this access drive too, it was mentioned, they're removing the flush pavement along Turnpike Street to better define this access and replacing that with new landscaping. Regarding landscaping, this layout provides a reduction of 47 square feet of impervious area. And with all that new grass and landscaping, we're providing a mix of trees and shrubs and different grass covers as well. Mentioning that new utility connections are proposed. Site, page. 1 second. This will be an all electric building. So no gas service is proposed on site. We are proposing an above ground pad mounted transformer with an underground electric service connecting back to an existing utility pole on Turnpike Street. We're also proposing a new underground water service connecting to the existing main in Turnpike Street. Regarding sewer, we are in coordination with Allentown Sewer Department on fine tuning the proposed layout for the sewer service. We received comments from them maybe a month ago, and we're still coordinating with them to get that intertwined into these plans. There's also the new stormwater management system, which is a closed pipe system where runoff is routed to a series of deep sump and hooded catch basins on site, which are then conveyed to the closed pipe system and to a water quality unit, which is then discharged to the northwest of the site, which is where runoff under existing condition flows to today. I also want to note that a traffic study was prepared as part of this application. On the call, we have Sean Kelly with Capital Engineering Associates. He's the traffic engineer for this project. The study compared the pre-development conditions to the post-development conditions and as well as future no-build conditions, assuming that nothing is built on property. And the conclusions of the study show that there are no notable impacts to area traffic operations as compared to future no builds. And that was peer reviewed by the town's traffic peer reviewer. And then whether it was acceptable means and methods of that, the traffic report, and they agreed with the conclusion. Before I wrap up, I just want to touch on some history of how we got here. We also received a variance through the ZBA to allow additional freestanding signs and photo sign area. To permit the 2 proposed pre-browse boards and 2 digital pre-browse or menu boards in the drive-thru. We also attended 2 technical review committee meetings. And we have since revised the plans through those meetings after hearing comments from the town and peer reviewer. We feel now the plans are in a good spot where they're technically sound and address all the peer review comments as well. So with that, we were also in receipt of the regional planner's site plan application review letter. We agree with 95% of that letter, but there's a few items I would like to address on that. I don't know if you'd prefer we address it now or.
No, I would like to let Matt Monahan, if Connor's done, Matt Monahan will present the review memorandum next, and then we'll have Connor step back in to talk about any concerns that you have with the review memorandum.
Is that fine with you?
Yeah, that works.
Okay,
Thank
all
you.
right, that's all.
So, yeah, with that, I'll turn it back over for any questions.
All right, thank you. Questions for that? Comes on board.
We will repeat the traffic study again.
Sure, and Sean can go into some more detail about specifics of the study. But the way the study works is it compares the pre-development conditions, so existing conditions, to post-development, assuming McDonald's is built and operating. And it also compares to future no-build conditions, which will supply a factor of like increasing in traffic over a period of time. And the conclusions of the study show that there are no notable impacts to area traffic operations from post-development to those future.
Find that hard to believe, knowing traffic conditions that I see at other McDonald's restaurants in the area. Current usage, it's a low flow of traffic using overdone, and I know McDonald's sites must be several times more traffic. People going into McDonald's, other places.
The majority of McDonald's customers are what they call pass-by trips, where it's people already traveling on the road, they see McDonald's and they say, oh, I'm going to McDonald's, and they turn in. So it's not generating a lot of new traffic, where most of the majority of the traffic on the McDonald's site is already pass-by trips through the intersections nearby.
What did you say about Joan?
I have a question adding on that. Is no notable impact to traffic. However, what about where the traffic will actually be located versus a lot of the traffic? My overtime right now is on 28. However, it seems that based on the egress and ingress of the parking lot and drive-through, that most of that new traffic will divert through a partially residential neighborhood. Can you speak on that a little bit?
Sean, would you mind?
So before we move there, who just spoke, please? Who?
That was wrong.
I apologize, it's Ryan Moser.
Sorry, Ryan.
Tough to hear you guys. Just for the record, Sean Kelly with Chapel Engineering. I think the question was it how much traffic would divert to the residential neighborhood? Is that what I heard?
That's correct. I am not able to see the ingress and egress for the parking lot on the screen that you're sharing, as it looks like it's off a little bit, but where will the traffic coming out of McDonald's be diverted to?
Yeah, still a little tough to hear. Maybe it would make sense just to, I think I could do a screen share. I can give you guys a handle on the traffic numbers, and maybe that'll put into some of these questions. See if I can get into that. I'm always, let's see, share screen. This is host disabled participant screen sharing, so I may need to get permission.
Okay. We're gonna give you permission, hang on.
Earlier.
want to do that.
Still isn't letting me.
Okay, Sean, try now.
Oh, there we go. All right, great. So does everyone see this okay? Yes, I'll just kind of walk through quickly. So I think, Connor did a good job describing the project. Again, I think we're all probably somewhat familiar with the study area, Obashan Hardware. As part of our study, we went out and looked at traffic conditions during the 3 critical time periods for McDonald's traffic. That's your weekday morning when you have, the breakfast crowd coming, your weekday evening, which is your 4 to 6 when you have people, getting dinner. A lot of that traffic is, as Connor mentioned, is passed by people returning from work. And then your Saturday midday, which is the busiest time period, the weekend lunch period. So we went out and did counts at all of these intersections during 7 to 9 in the morning, 4 to 6 in the evening, 11 to 2 on a Saturday. And then we adjusted that volume up to represent peak month conditions. So consistent with DOT guidelines, we're looking at the busiest month of the year. The volumes today on Turnpike Street are fairly low. It's around 1,000 vehicles a day, but both on a weekday and a Saturday. The peak hour flows are in the range of about 70 to 95 vehicles an hour. We looked at vehicle speeds. It's 25-mile-an-hour road. People typically are going pushing 30 miles an hour, 26 to 29. We utilize what's known as the 85th percentile speed, which is for design purposes, and that was in the 30 to 34 mile range, which still was, even with those higher speeds, there's adequate sight lines. As if you've been out there, I'm sure it's pretty straight and no curvature. So in terms of the trips that the project generates, we utilize data that's published by what's known as the Institute of Transportation Engineers, or the ITE. And the ITE basically has created a database of traffic counts and operation. I'm sorry, am I losing you? But the ITE has a database that basically says how much traffic a fast food restaurant of this size would generate during standard time periods. And again, for a McDonald's, you're looking at about 80 customers in the morning, about 80 in and about 80 out, about 160 trips. In the weekday evening, the busiest hour, you're looking at about 60 customers in and out per hour, so about a customer per minute. And then the busiest time frame is that Saturday midday, as I'd mentioned, which when you have about 100 customers an hour coming and going. The data indicates that about half of these trips are pass-by trips. So these are people that would either already be traveling on Route 3 or already traveling on Route 28 as part of a commuter trip or another purpose trip that would make a trip to the site and then head back to their initial destination. So they're not new trips to the area, but they're new trips to the project. We looked at the traffic patterns to get a handle as to where the bulk of the traffic would be coming and going from, and it kind of splits off in 4 distinct directions, or 5, I guess. You'd have about 40% we assume would be on Route 3 south of the site, about 25% on Route 3 north, about 25% on Route 28 to the east, and then smaller percentages, 5% on Turnpike Street and Chester Turnpike. So when you look at the largest increase in new traffic, it really would be, to the south, and that's 40%. So even during the busiest time period, that Saturday midday, you're talking about, basically something in the range of 20 new trips coming and 20 new trips going. So that's the largest increase on any of the roadways that, lead into the site itself. We've looked at the increases in terms of delays and particularly at the signals out, on Allenstown Road, and the impacts are fairly minimal. Again, a lot of the traffic's passed by, so it's already there. In terms of impacts to the neighborhood, to the north of us, we're expecting typically it would be about a 5% draw that would continue into the residential area. Most of the traffic that would turn left from the site and head north would make that left onto School Street and use that as a means of accessing Route 3 heading northbound. So that's where the bulk of that traffic goes. So in terms of the residential traffic to the local streets, we're talking about 5% of this new traffic. It works out to be, maybe 4 or 5 trips an hour, something in that range. It's not a huge number. I know there's been some discussion, and hopefully you guys can see this aerial, about potentially changing traffic patterns on Turnpike Street, looking at, one-way circulation and, our stance on this is that, in theory, it may seem like it's a good idea in terms of lessening the impact of cars turning on a Route 28. But all it's really going to do is displace that traffic to another location. And what I mean by that is, if you're heading to Route 28 eastbound after you've come to McDonald's, you're leaving the site, we can put a no right turn restriction in, but all that ultimately will do is they'll make a left out of the site into Turnpike Street, turn on the River Road, and now all the residences that are along this stretch of the corridor would feel all that McDonald's impact. And at the end of the day, they would still end up at Turnpike Street, rather at Route 28 to make that left-hand turn. So all we would do is shift it. Traffic flow isn't entirely different from electricity or water flow. It's ultimately going to get where it wants to go. And even if you put up barriers to force it in another direction, it's going to land where it wants to land. And if the traffic leaving here is looking to go eastbound on 28, that's what we think will ultimately happen is we'll take the traffic that now would basically impact only this stretch of the corridor before making that movement. And instead, we would bring them down into the intersection with School Street. We'd bring them across these residential properties. And again, they'd still end up doing the same movement just a couple hundred feet down the road. So we don't see a lot of merit. And in fact, it ultimately might have an unintended consequence of making, this street here, River Road, ultimately become a de facto egress drive for customers that want to go to 28. So we're not proposing any access restrictions. And again, based on the analyses that were reviewed by your consultant, it didn't seem as though they had recommended any restrictions either. I think the last item that we'd reviewed, quite a bit during the TRC meeting, was the whether there was a need for, a new pedestrian connection, from the senior housing to get across 28 and over to the site. And we did take a look at this, and I know that there's been some outreach also to that facility. And our understanding is, they do have a regular shuttle service where they pick the residents up and bring them to various places for whatever shopping needs they have. So that's probably a more likely scenario in terms of how they would access and egress the site. In terms of, building this crosswalk here, we have had some meetings with DOT staff, and it's a lot more complicated than just striping a crosswalk. There are another number of other measures that would need to be implemented that aren't inexpensive. We would need to have sidewalk that would, safely take the residents from the driveway, past both driveways, even down to the intersection. We would need to build wheelchair ramps to get you from one side of the intersection to the other. Once you introduce sidewalk and curbing, you're changing the drainage patterns because there's no longer sheet flow off the corridor. So we'd have to look at what the implications of that were. The DOT would require what's known as a rapid rectangular flashing beacon, which is typically a $20,000 item in and of itself, to push button to emit the lights to cross. And then you'd have to build more sidewalk and wheelchair ramps on this side, again, a new crosswalk and sidewalk and wheelchair ramps, and then sidewalk along the frontage connecting. So we did look at it, and certainly no one is going to say that it wouldn't be a measure that would make it a safer movement for pedestrians. But quite frankly, the cost to implement that from our discussions with the client are beyond what they have in their mitigation package. And it sounds like there's already, a service being provided to these residents that gets them to their shopping destination safely, via shuttle service. So we're not proposing that measure either. And I think that kind of sums up the work we did on traffic. Again, it was a little hard hearing the question, but hopefully that addressed some of the comments that were raised.
Thanks, Sean. I just want to say two things Sean said towards the end there. One being comments that came from TRC. I don't know if we want to get into that now. That's part of the letter from the regional planner. But it was about restricting right turns out of McDonald's site and potentially making Turnpike Street a one way. And that's where Sean was saying that any restrictions outright, the cars would just be sent north on Turnpike Street and go through the residential. So that was a comment from TRC, was that they were considering actually making Turnpike Street one way going north, just to avoid cars turning right and getting the highway road there and stepping further back. That's the first thing John addressed. And then the second was another comment from TRC, suggestion about providing a pedestrian connection from the senior housing facility, which we can get to more detail on So that's review letter.
Can I ask a question? Is this a done deal? You know, I have schools, I live on School Street. It's a racetrack right now, and you're telling me there's gonna be more cars coming down the street. It is a racetrack. I've got motorcycles coming down here doing wheelies, gone to the cops 3 times, nobody does anything. I don't even see a cop down here. And now we're gonna have more traffic?
Yeah, I appreciate your concern, and there will be a time for the public hearing.
Well, what was this all about?
Notice, right, first of all, we're gonna listen from the applicant, then we're gonna listen from the regional planner. Then next on the agenda, we're gonna make a determination whether it's a regional impact affecting other towns. And if we determine that there isn't, then we're gonna go on, acting on waivers that were suggested. And then, if it proceeds through that, we'll go on to determine whether or not the application is complete. At that point, we'll invite any comments from the public to discuss everything that's, or comment on everything that's been brought right at that point.
So at that point, is that when the decision's been, I don't mean to interrupt, I just want to understand this. So we're here now just to hear this, and then you're gonna have another meeting, and then at some point we can come and have comments?
That'll hopefully be part of this meeting, that we'll proceed with clean this determination on the application. And if it's determined as complete, we'll go with the public comment part on everything
I
that you
respect
hear
that.
from the applicant and the planner. And then after that, we'll consider the applicant approval or not.
Just to add,
Your name, please.
my name is Deborah Shinkonis. Just going off of that, if I heard her wrote everything down, you said you're gonna look at the regional impact. I think that this young lady is concerned about, I do live off of School Street. Is the local impact. I didn't hear you say when that comes into place, or
Right, the whole local will be taken into consideration when the application, if it's deemed complete, is taken into consideration for approval and denial without conditions.
It'll be during the public hearing, working, everybody will have an opportunity.
this evening?
Yes,
Thank you, sir.
if we get to that point,
Thank you.
there is a process and state law requires that the planning board makes a determination of whether this is a development or region. If it is a development or region, what still makes that decision, then we are required by law to stop tonight. Okay, because we must notify surrounding towns. And let's give those towns an opportunity to respond. So what will happen if that occurs, if the board makes that decision, then the meeting will stop. And will have to be continued to another date. We'll have to determine what that date is. So we may or may not get through the entire process tonight, depending on what occurs relatively quickly.
When you say regional, I mean, it's just Allen's down here with this. I'm just curious, like,
State law requires the board to make a determination whether any site application is development or regional impact. That's what it's called. Right? If it is, if the board decides it is, then surrounding towns must be notified. If the board decides it's not, then the process can continue to. So there's a.
understand you could talk about.
This is not continue component coming up very soon.
Thank you, sir.
To the meeting, okay, and then we must then follow wherever that leads us.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I apologize that I did not at the beginning read through the whole process, so you know when the public
No
hearing
worries.
is going to begin.
We should know we have involved citizens that want to come and are interested in the town. That's the main thing.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Is there any other questions from the board?
No, seeing none, and then I'll ask Matt, could you introduce yourself and could you summarize any concerns and highlights of site plan application?
Sure. So I'm going to refer to my second memo of July 16th, 2025. Just to recap, I think the applicant's engineer kind of outlined it. They were continued last time. They got a variance on their signage. We had a traffic TRC. And I know we've also received town engineering comments. So my memo kind of takes all that stuff into account. For major issues, you know, the waiver was discussed from section 602F just to show utility connections on the plan. The variance just generally, you know, a copy of that should just be provided and then just cite that on the plan. If it gets that far, a reminder that there's a conditional use permit under the groundwater protection ordinance that's associated with this. It's technically a separate application. Article 2603 of the zoning ordinance deals with that. And I would just suggest to the board as you're going through this, right? When application's at CUP, you got to go through and discuss the criteria, whether or not it meets it. And I know there's some engineering questions in there from a groundwater standpoint. And the town's engineers weighed in on that, so I'd have the board refer to that, and then consider, you know, the site plan application. Just as a quick, you know, thing, I know in reality you have the site plan and the CUP is like a subset of that. So I think it's just as long as you know, you're clear. Now we're acting on the CUP, now we're acting on the site plan, right? Like just make sure that clarity is reflected in the motions. When you get to that point to approve or deny, just be clear about that. And then the other thing, I know traffic is going to be a discussion point. Some of the ideas were, you guys have already talked about it, right? One-way stuff. You guys talked about crosswalks. There's discussions about the shuttle service that the facility across the street provides. Those are kind of the big ticket items for discussion. As far as the TRC, just looking back at those issues, excuse me. One of the comments from the sewer department is they just had a reminder that sewer connection permit will be needed from the state. They will require a full manhole. The town's engineer, Gale Associates, and the sewer engineer will need to review details together, or, you know, at least each individually. They don't have to sit in the same room, you know. They both have to review it and follow any recommendations that they may make. The fire department had a point. They made a point. One way out was their thought, possibly to the left, not to Route 28. Police agreed with fire. Road agent didn't have anything to add. And that's that on TRC. By way of checklist, they've got all their checklist items. By way of site plan regs, it looks like they've got all their requirements met there. Waivers we discussed before. Section 602F for showing utility connections on the plan. Zoning, that would be the only two items under zoning. Again, the variance which they received. And then secondly, the groundwater protection ordinance CUP to go over that. And that's really it. I think if you were to look at, just looking at my memo to kind of guide you, and just raise questions when you get into the CUP versus the site plan, just to kind of summarize, at the end of the day, they each need their own to be treated individually, even though the CUP supports the site plan. So individual motions on those for completeness, individual motions on those to approve or deny, you know, regional impact. I would say, you know, again, it's kind of a secondary application to the site plan. So I would say if you, however you act on the site plan, you know, just have clarity. And if whoever makes a motion on that, for example, on regional impact, you could say, for example, I make a motion to state that the CUP and the site plan, and then whatever your motion may be. But I would just say, just refer to those, you know, first couple pages on my memo with the high, the high level items and then the TRC comments. And then, just kind of keep going on the conversations that you guys have already started.
Yeah, just want to clarify the waiver request in that section, listed for the utility connections. There are currently utility connections on our plan. Part of that section was to show the full sewer profile, and information with the South Sewer Department, being one through with them.
Yes. Yeah, let me see if I can find that waiver. I got a lot of documents here. Just scrolling through. If the applicant's got it handy, I would just ask, if you could bring it up on that end, it might save time. I've got like 20 different things here I'm scrolling through. Where are you? Not there. Actually, you know what? I just sent that. Hold on a sec here.
It's like Mike's on it.
What's that? I'm still looking. Hold on a sec. Oh, wait, was that it?
I just want to clarify, if for whatever reason we had an issue with this waiver and didn't grant it, that would hold the applicant back, right? Because then they would have to, we have to kind of start all over again.
It should be incomplete.
Okay.
But we got that screwed on.
So procedurally, just to kind of lay it out, the decision points at each area, right? So, regional impact is one vote the board has to make. Completeness is another vote. Then that waiver is solely associated with the site plan. Obviously, the conditional use permit and the site plan. So to approve or deny something is the very last vote out of a series of votes. If the regional impact, and I know Mike just described this, right? If the board votes yes, it is a regional impact, it gets continued for a month, and then abutting towns have the opportunity to comment, and then it actually goes, the planning commission does another review, we'll have somebody else review it in the office for that. And they're just looking at regional impact. And all regional impact is, it just provides the opportunity for feedback, right? So it gives those abutter towns essentially like abutter status, right? Like the abutters to the property receive notice and have the opportunity to comment. That's also what DRI does for those abutter towns. Completeness, if that is, the attorneys always say you have to say, if you vote it incomplete, you have to say without prejudice. And they would go back to the beginning if they wanted to reapply. And all completeness is, does the board have enough information to open the public hearing and make an informed decision? So that's kind of the test on completeness. Is there enough there to make an informed decision? And then, the waiver, it's a waiver request is, it's kind of along the lines of completeness, right? Let me use a totally different example from a totally unrelated thing. Let's say you have a guy that's got 100 acres. He wants to chop off 2 acres in a subdivision. In that instance, that person may ask for a waiver to survey the back 98 and then just do his survey work up at the front 2 acres that he's chopping off. And that is a waiver request, right? Because the board needs to know, do we have enough information here to know that he's got his 2 acres that may be required by zoning? So they may grant him that waiver, right? Do you still have enough information to make an informed decision? That's kind of part of the waiver discussion too. On the public hearing aspect of that, that's where the application is actually approved or denied. So just to kind of recap, DRI, if it's voted a regional impact, it's continued for a month. If it's voted complete, you can jump right in. If it's voted incomplete, they can come back, but they would have to repay all their fees and start over.
As long as they are giving us the information we need.
Mhm. Yeah, and I would just say, you know, I had years ago I worked at another planning commission in one of the towns I was circuit riding for. Um, they called somebody incomplete because they didn't have a north arrow on there, and I didn't know if that would be, you know, within that threshold of do you have enough information to make an informed decision, right? So that's one end of the spectrum. I recall another town I worked with where somebody came in with a site plan on a napkin, and that's the opposite end of the spectrum, right? So I guess what I'm saying is look at the materials and just say, do you have enough information to proceed? And that's a subjective question to the board, because at the end of the day, the board has to make that call, right? If they feel like, for example, they need more information on engineering stuff, you know, stormwater management, you know, they have the right to ask for that. And you know, ask the applicant in, you know, they'll look at it and discuss, you know, hey, that's something we can provide, or whatever the case may be. But I think just that's the standard, is do you have enough information to proceed and make an informed decision? And that's something the board, you know, again, they're the ones tasked with making that call. So it's really up to the board if they feel they've got enough or if they need more.
Any other questions for Matt from the board? Okay, thanks, Matt. I think we'll move
Yep.
on to,
Can I continue to just go through some of the other items on this letter? Apologies.
Which document are you looking at?
The second review,
Okay.
additional letter.
Okay.
Yep. So the other major issue is number 5, listed in major issues, and that is regarding the one-way recommendation that came from TRC. And just want to relay this back to what Sean was saying earlier, where it's sure you limit cars exiting right out of here to get to Pine Wood Road, but at the end of the day, it's just going to divert vehicles exiting north to Turnpike Street and then along River Road to the back, and then still ending up at Pinewood. And then just based on the conclusions from the traffic study, that there is no notable impact. So if cars were to make the right out of here, then it shouldn't impact traffic operations. So just, we ultimately don't feel that the one-way recommendation or restricting egress out of the site to left turn only is warranted there.
Oh, I was giving Mr. Chairman, one important thing for the board to note is that this traffic flow, change in traffic patterns is not a matter for the planning board. It is a matter for the select board, and is not to be considered as any part of the decision-making process. Okay,
I did not realize that.
thank you.
I have a quick question on the waiver. So it makes sense to me that you're not gonna have the sewer on there because you're still working with the sewer department. So you guys haven't finalized.
We're not to that point yet.
Oh,
We're
okay.
running around too much. Here. Let's stop.
Yeah.
Let's reset, please. The next thing to consider is the conditional use permit. Okay. We will get the waivers in a moment, and that's the appropriate time.
you want to go on with the regional impact first?
Finish out what we're talking about here with regard to the review memo. When we're done with that, we will move the conditional use permit, and then we will move on to termination of leases.
If we don't agree on regional impact, then we start.
We stop.
So
We stop.
should we do that first?
No,
So, see,
we have to go through the process first. Process is to consider the CUP, or then make the determination.
I trust you, Mike.
Then I will stop for home. It's all the process.
The reason I mentioned the one way, and you noted that it's the select board that controls traffic operation, is that it is listed as a potential condition. Well, just want to highlight that. And then I guess that's it for the major issues. Just some potential conditions that are listed. One notes to comply with TRC issues. That's pretty blanket statement there, and I know some of the TRC issues included the construction of the pedestrian connection from Hillsbrook. So I just want to kind of talk a little bit more about that. We've been in contact with the Hillsborough Village Executive Director, and he noted that residents in general try to avoid crossing Pinewood Road. And that they also encourage them to use the shuttle service, which is offered 6 days a week, but that's supplemented by a van service as well for an additional day. So just wanted to know that, and then also the significant cost that whole construction of the pedestrian connection carries. Just don't feel that that's warranted for the community that it discourages to cross the road anyway. So I just wanted to note that when it mentioned it's here, it's in the conditions of approval. And those are the two things I wanted to touch on in this slide. Any questions on any of those items?
At this time.
There may be as when we get.
Yeah.
Not there yet.
We'll go ahead and we'll move on with considering the conditional use permit. The conditional use permit condition was triggered by the fact that the proposed project would render more impervious more than 15% or 2,500 square feet of lot. It's actually a reduction of the impervious area now, a big reduction, and I think I would discuss the information problem, but basically, the applicant has an extensive groundwater plan to direct the stormwater to the existing collection roadway, three collection areas, similar to where it was on the overtime, only will be reduced, in their proposal, proposes treatment systems and their need to requirements.
You want to take us through your narrative?
Do you want me to go through each item?
You can just, the board members have the information.
Yeah, so a lot of the criteria are referencing just groundwater recharge on site, and also ensuring that we're not storing any regulated substances on site, which we are not with this. And just to touch on the groundwater recharge, we are reducing impervious area by over an acre. So just the new grass area alone provides additional groundwater recharge, and we are treating the water through a stormwater quality unit for discharge to the site. So, going through this, we also provided a drainage report as part of the application, which goes into more detail on the calculations of all of this. Well, and then just continuing through these, no animal manures, fertilizers, or compost are proposed to be stored on site. Regulated substances are not proposed to be stored externally on site or proposed fast food use. Outdoor storage areas for regulated substances aren't proposed. No inactive wells exist on the property. No blasting was proposed as part of this redevelopment, so you're not blasting any bedrock. And then as far as deliveries go, all deliveries will take place over the paved areas. So any oil release or anything will go through the catch basins and then treated as it's with other vehicles. Fertilizers aren't anticipated to be stored on site, they're not proposed. And then that wraps up the summary of these. Any questions or you want to go in more detail about any of these?
Anybody else? Brian? Anybody on the questions on that?
No questions on this topic.
Thank you.
So then just to summarize, the motion second will be needed. The conditional use permit requested this be permitted. The proposed drive-through the permitted use within the underlying district, which will render impervious more than 50% or 2,500 square feet of the subject lot within the groundwater protection overlay district. So that's the requested conditional use terms. At this point also, I would recommend that the board also impose a condition of approval on it, which is simply to state that the associated site plan must be approved by the planning board for which conditional use permit to be in effect. There's no point in having a conditional use permit in effect if you do not have an approved site plan for the same lot. So,
Do I hear such a motion?
Wait, hey, Mike, really quick, just a reminder, you've got to do completeness and regional impact on this as well. And then also, you know, open the public hearing on it and then close it and then seek any motions to approve.
before we approve the CUP?
Yeah, on the CUP as well, because it's it's technically a land use application. So, but that condition is a good one. But just remember procedurally, you know, to hit those marks.
So your recommendation is to wait and consider?
No,
the-
you could, I mean, because the site plan is the key thing here, and with that condition in place, if you guys go through and get, you know, address the CUP first, the site plan is the site plan, right? Like that, if that doesn't get approved, then the CUP is meaningless. But you know, you still have to determine if the CUP is complete. You still have to do regional impact on it, and then, you know, go through the hearing and all that. So it's procedurally it follows the site plan process, but by having that condition at the end that says it's null and void if the site plan is not approved, it just gets you to the point of the site plan.
Okay, so I'm guessing I'm looking for a recommendation from you, Matt, whether to hold this and do it all together, the site plan application consideration. Or do it separately.
You could do them. I would recommend doing them separately, but just know that procedurally you've got to do the same steps with the CUP.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right, so we have the conditional use permit, we discussed the conditions of the request. With the condition of approval attached. So at this point, the board needs to make a recommendation, now needs to consider determination of regional impact for the CUP. So at this point, Mr. Chairman, the board needs to discuss that. And just understand that the determination of regional impact is when a development could reasonably be expected to impact on the neighboring municipality.
Right. The CUP, and keeping in mind that the same process unfolds for the site plan.
A second determination of regional impact will be done for the site plan. Yes. All right, I'm with you now.
Yeah.
All right, does anybody feel that the additional use permit for the groundwater or for the surface water discharge will be of regional impact to any of our surrounding towns?
No.
So
we need a motion to approve the requested conditional use permit as we discussed.
And also move that the application is not a development of regional.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
I move that the conditional use permit is not a development of regional impact.
So that was
Yeah.
Ryan.
This is Ryan Beaudry.
Second.
Second that.
Okay, roll call vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Ryan, I.
Say aye.
So, thank you.
All right, now I think we'll move on with making determination on whether or not the site location.
Well, the CUP is incomplete. So now the order the CUP application and the narrative combined are sufficient enough to
Yeah.
warrant.
Hey, Mike, this is Ryan Godry. If I understood, Matt Monahan correctly, we were gonna vote on, the determination of regional impact separately for the conditional use permit and then, a determination of regional impact, to the site plan itself, to the application from the conditional use permit. Did I understand that correctly, or? Did I misunderstand?
That's my understanding.
Yes.
Yeah, you do DRI, completeness, and hearing on both applications. Yep. And you need to have votes that reflect, your choice on both. And it looks like you guys did the DRI piece here. So then, completeness would be the next step for the CUP.
Yeah, do I have a motion to accept the CUP and complete?
Yes, so moved.
And second,
Second.
roll call vote?
Kathleen, I.
Okay, aye.
Joanna, I.
Ryan Godry, aye.
Mike Day, aye.
Okay, so the CUP application is
Okay, so then from there, you just, open your public hearing, close your public hearing, and then you guys deliberate, and then you would act on it. Keeping in mind what that condition was that Mike made suggested. I think that's a good one because it just literally puts everything in, the site plan application itself, makes it clean, and that's the best way to do it.
Okay, so we'll open any public comment on the conditional use permit for stormwater management and how the stormwater will be channeled off the property into the receptors, the existing receptors, similar to the way it had been done by Ocean, only there'll be less and it'll be more filtered. To summarize it. Is any concerns with that? And this is separate from the all the other events. Yes, ma'am.
Question, I don't know if it falls into the stormwater, I just know in the buildings that I do now and manage. Where does all the grease and all the hazardous waste chemicals and all that go for cleaning all of that? Is that going into the stormwater?
The grease, generated from just the restaurant itself.
Yeah.
That's filtered through a grease trap, which is part of the sewer.
So will that be going into the stormwater drain and going into separate,
It goes into sewers.
right? And is that being treated? I
Yeah,
know gases come out of that, that's why I'm asking.
Yeah, the grease trap processes just typical fast food use where it's
And who monitors that, because,
that would be the owner operator of this.
because, most of the kids work there, right? So, you gotta look at safety. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay, I'll close the public comment period on that, and we'll consider approval of the conditional use permit.
And I do, just for one quick thing, Mike, I do have in the memo, there is some sample language for the CUP. And just to recap, Michael Mira, do you just want to mention your potential condition again? Just reread it, just to refresh everybody.
well, the potential conditional approval for the CUP is the associated site plan must be approved by the planning board. This conditional use permit to be in effect.
And then I Motion to conditionally approve the application with all of the conditions as previously listed, as the proposal complies with all of the requirements of section 25005 of the zoning ordinance, given the plans presented and waivers granted.
With the conditional approval attached.
With the condition of,
So that's a motion.
Do I have a second?
Brian Beaudry seconds.
All right, roll call vote.
Kathleen, I.
Like that,
Joanna, I.
Brian Beaudry, aye.
Mike J, I.
The CUP permit.
Okay, so walking us through that, Matt. Then we'll move on to, determination of regional impact for the project application. Is there anybody, any board members that feel that it is a regional impact to surrounding towns?
This is Ryan Beaudry. I have a comment on this. I think, well, of course, it should be the data, the resulting from this. I think that given the proximity, in my opinion, given the proximity to the municipal boundary of Pembroke, and the fact that this McDonald's would be located on a shared regional corridor, in my opinion, it's the only, it's probably the only fast food restaurant, or will be the only fast food restaurant of its kind. Other than the subway, which does not drive through. It is unclear what standards the traffic will occur. And given that the closest to McDonald's to this location is which is a little over 7 miles away, which is a little over 6 miles away, is unclear what for visitors would draw from Pembroke to this location, but even regionally, given the proximity of the border.
Did you say that you thought it did or did not? That it did?
Have regional impact, given that it's on a shared regional corridor and given its proximity to the Pembroke line.
Sure.
Just want to mention on the traffic piece, that the traffic study was peer reviewed by the town peer reviewer as well.
Of course.
That it was acceptable methodology in the report, and that the data and stuff was accurate.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
Also touch on the fact that also passed by, which would mean not significant increase in traffic down in town, so forth. So I think don't feel that it's regional impact.
I don't feel that it is either. I feel like the amount of traffic coming is so small. And again, because there is a McDonald's right in Cooksett, right in Concord, I think that Pembroke traffic is just as likely to go that way as it is towards Allen's.
The other comments from the board? Then I would like to, I'm looking for a motion to move that the application is not a development of regional impact.
I'll second that.
Or
So moved. So moved.
Do I have a second?
A second.
Okay, then roll call vote.
Kathleen, I.
like that,
Joanna, I.
Brian, nay.
Mike J, I. Okay, motion passes. The board will then now act on waivers. We have one waiver in front of us. And as previously discussed, the utilities, not all the utilities being shown on the plan, just strictly per 6.02 F due to the final sewer. Thanks for you could just why I'll try to explain that.
Sure, yeah, so as we're showing all the utility connections, the waiver should, the requesting waiver from showing a full sewer profile, as that's still being worked and reviewed by Allenstown Sewer Department. And that was actually requested from Allenstown as well.
And I just want to clarify, if we grant this waiver, we can still ask for the sewer to be submitted once those plans are finalized.
I think they would,
They would-
if everything is approved and everything went through, then it'd be one of the additional items to have on the final record drawings that's submitted.
Correct, we need to get the state sewer approval as well as local sewer approval.
But everything else that's mentioned on here, you said will be, the electricity will be on, storm drainage, the
Yeah, and that
Yes.
is,
fire alarm.
and that's currently shown on our plans,
So really, the only thing missing is that sewer,
the sewer profile.
which is impossible for you now.
As it stands, yes, we have the plan view of sewer showing. But we don't have the profile showing, an elevation view, but we do have rims, elevations, and invert elevation shown, we just wanted that second view of what you're looking, right, guys.
And the comments from the PRC from the sewer department pertaining to the manhole. You guys are good with what they were looking for. I know that you expressed that there are some other review committee recommendations or requests that you don't think would be in the best interest of the project, but as far as the sewer.
The sewer, yeah, so that was an order comment from the first technical review committee, and since then, we've updated the plans to address, let's say, 95% of the technical review committee comments listed in the second review letter. The ones that aren't necessarily addressed are the one way on the left there that we mentioned. So on that note, yes, we swapped this out to the manhole connection. It wasn't a doghouse manhole. We also just made some changes to the sewer layout that we've already been in coordination with the sewer department. And at this point now, it's just fine tuning with them, just working through the detail of the sewer and then how we'll disconnect the existing sewers.
Any questions or concerns from the board?
And I'll make a motion that we grant the waiver as requested.
Do 6.02.
Yeah.
Do I have a second?
A second,
Roll call vote.
Kathleen, I.
Mike, F. I.
Joanna, I.
Ryan Beaudry, aye.
Mike J. I.
You requested waivers granted.
Okay, next up, the board will act on completing public application.
Basically, in the opinion of the board, has sufficient information been presented to permit the board to make a decision. I haven't made a decision yet, but you have enough information to be able to move forward to make a decision. That's the purpose of the completed step.
Any comments from the board?
I feel that it's complete, but I definitely was relying a lot on this memo. Matt Monahan as well, so going through seeing the checklist that everything's been checked off and it's been met, and the PRC meetings that have been held. Seems like we've gotten every supplemental document or plan that we've requested, so the best of my knowledge.
Anybody else? Okay, I'll accept the motion. Looking for a motion to accept the application as complete.
So moved.
Second,
Second, roll call vote.
Kathleen, I.
Mike, F. I.
Joanna,
Ryan Beaudry, aye.
Mike J. I.
The application is complete.
Okay, at this time, the board will open the public hearing.
I'd like to say something.
Yeah.
I've had my house since 2016, 2006. It's been a very lovely neighborhood. This past year and a half is a nightmare. And I'm really upset. I don't understand why you have to have a McDonald's here. I understand we have to bring revenue into the town. I'm not sure the location is good. And I'm really disturbed about the fact that we're gonna see more traffic coming down this road. And we've got plenty as it is. And the other question I have is, when did this all start? How long has this been in the planning?
I have a quick Oh, because it's School Street, are you talking about? School Street?
Yeah, I am.
I didn't see that the traffic would be impacted.
Yes, they said it would be.
Okay.
You know, they,
School Street, for your knowledge, goes across the road and is in front of Subway.
well,
Subway is part of.
That's
that-
fine.
that's-
it still continues down this one.
Yes.
So there is likelihood to have more
I've
traffic
lived on
down
School Street for 50 years,
here. Yes,
so,
that's great. So I'm here too.
yeah,
So you must see the traffic. That's why.
well, that's different, yeah.
So my question again is like, how far back did this all begin to start planning this process? Because I just heard about it, what, a couple months ago?
Yeah. At some point, I heard Overshawn sold to.
But how did this process begin for McDonald's to be put in there? When did that all start?
Earlier this year, I think, right?
Yeah, we submitted to the town. February.
So you submitted it to town, so something started before then,
Yeah.
right? Okay, that's my question.
Yeah.
So like, how informed was the town, the people in the town to know about this? Was it just a couple months ago we heard about this? And all this time it's been in the planning?
They were at the zoning board in April,
Okay, so that's
So-
about the time,
so that's about the time.
but there have been things going on before that, is what I'm saying.
Well, but what they do with their private land is not, well, we don't know that. So we know the transaction happened and because there's a change to the assessing. But I mean, nobody in the towns seeked
So
out,
are you saying Autosons can sell their location and put it in McDonald's?
they can sell their location and whoever buys it can build whatever they want.
And so the townspeople, we have nothing.
We
to say
have,
about
we
that.
have zoning that allows in the business district that allows. A fast food restaurant or any restaurant or a number of other businesses. So as long as they meet the requirements of the zoning which the townspeople voted on.
So the neighbors that are affected on this street and surrounding on Turnpike and around there, we just bear the brunt of it. And you know something, not for nothing, they've done a great job, I'm sure. You can't guarantee any of this, no matter what they say on this paper about traffic flow and the number of cars and all that. You can't guarantee that. It can change. It could go more than what they're saying.
You can, but we do have a process where it's not just their study, that's why the town vested in.
No, the town didn't. You guys did.
No,
They did a study, presented to Congress, and then the town also doubled that and did their own study.
Again, you can't guarantee them. Things can change.
That is true, we don't know what the future holds.
Yeah, that's good.
I think it's an awful idea. It's a terrible thing to do to this town. This is a nice town. We didn't need to put a McDonald's in there.
It's not otherwise prohibited by the code. Scott is saying, we have the zoning set up and
That's wonderful, but that's zoning, and then there's the people in this town who have lived here for many years and are just seeing it go down the toilet. Seems to me somebody would be protecting the town, the people. If we're gonna rely on zoning. I mean, why don't you guys move over here and let them fly down your street?
If we're building across the street from my house, I would have the same amount of say. As long as.
You know what, Kathleen, with all due respect, I hear enough of you on Facebook and in the town board of selectmen.
I'm the person.
I'd rather hear.
yeah.
Okay.
No, go ahead.
All right.
Diane Adinolfo, just some feedback from a person who lives on School Street. I was talking to him the other day and he takes a walk around town every day. He brings a trash bag. And he says he sees so much trash and it says it's 90% of it is like Dunkin' Donuts. So in addition now to Dunkin' Donuts garbage, we're gonna have McDonald's garbage. I know it's not the fault of McDonald's or Dunkin' Donuts, but it's a fast food type environment. Food, the packages come into the car, people consume it. They don't want the trash in the car, so they throw it out. So, we're gonna have more of that around. Just feedback I got from another person. Regarding the zoning, so when this first came about, I was on the planning board, I was not on the select board. And so I looked up, so the first thing I did, I looked up zoning allows it. Including fast food restaurants. I had brief conversation with Matt Monahan. If you look at our master plan, the master plan contains information that says, hey, we want restaurants in Allenstown and fast food restaurants are okay. And then there was a survey that was sent out, this was a few years ago now. Survey, I believe it had like 25 people, which is not even close to being statistically valid, but I only know that because of my background. Had surveyed people and they said, yeah, we want restaurants and fast food restaurants is okay. So the issue that we have in front of us is we could say no, well, these people can say no, but then we'll get taken to court and we don't have a leg to stand. That's the problem that we have. So, you know, the master plan is up to be updated in 2026. So if anybody is motivated to, you know, update that to reflect more of what we want in this town, that's what we have to do. Like it or not, it's the situation we're in.
If you have something else to say.
I've been bringing business, I've been here 1 year, about a year ago. Lived in Londonderry, on a lot of committees. Kind of Londonderry at the beginning went through some of this, they were a little down, then they had a lot of businesses moving in. I think this town definitely, based on my increase in taxes last week, of another 2,400. We definitely need some business in this town. There's no guarantees on anything for anybody in any town. I know one of the considerations that we asked new businesses coming into town and to our selected officials, which, let's face it, it's a dying breed on that main street there, right? So we gotta start somewhere, right, to revitalize the town, right, and to bring in some revenue. I know when Londonderry put in Home Depot, major window two, traffic concerns, everything else. The question that the taxpayers asked the new businesses was, what benefit from a community standpoint, not a revenue standpoint, not a tax standpoint, hopefully, right, we're gonna bring some nice tax dollars to the town, which we need, right? How does our community benefit as a whole by having your business? Doesn't, I don't care if it's McDonald's or Joe Schmo's. What great impact will that be bringing to our community, i.e. maybe jobs for the teenagers that live in the town? I don't know, what do you feel, how do you feel that's gonna be of us?
Yeah, so, with the master town plan, one more restaurants, that's one. Sounds like people voted that they wanted restaurants and fast food was okay. And then you went through two of the other points I was gonna say, one was just increasing the revenue, and then the other one being employment opportunities for younger people, older people who that might not be available. And then from the fourth point, you alluded to too, that it revitalizes that.
One of the things you made mention that I just would like to throw in, is I know when McDonald's came on one or two in Londonderry and in other towns. That can be quite a plus for our elderly. How so? You walk in the morning, they're playing bingo, they're having coffee, it's a nice social event, it's a wonderful thing for a lot of people to get out and socialize. I'm just curious, I'm thinking aloud. Are the people that live in that elderly home across the street? Are they people that can walk? Well, from what I heard is they all have to take a bus to go anywhere. Is there a lot of people to walk? Because they might want to walk there and get a little exercise and do the social aspect. I don't know.
They're probably going to Dunkin' Donuts. They don't have to cross the main highway to get there. That's a
But it might
dangerous
be
situation.
for them, like, things that, you know, I'm all for business here. Let me just say that, especially when I drive on Hooks Road every day. It looks like, I don't know, the Texas, one of those boll weevils that go on the ground. I don't know what you'd say, because like, okay, we need something, right? And so, you know, I think there's many good things Another thing is, I know from market studies, wherever there's a McDonald's. There's a Wendy's, there's a Burger King. It's just from market studies, right? Same thing. You know, I work for Trader Joe's, wherever there's Trader Joe's, there's a Whole Foods, there's a, you know. So, I'm just thinking aloud. For 2026, I guess that master plan.
Why does it have to be fast food? I mean, McDonald's isn't even healthy food.
No, I'm just saying, we gotta start somewhere.
Well, I agree, but you know, I don't know why we want fast food out there.
And the other good thing that I'm thinking, because I really wanna be positive and I wanna see revenue and I'd love to see. I mean, I have a different vision for the town, but I mean. We gotta start somewhere, so, you know, another business might say, wow. McDonald's did their studies, they moved here, maybe it'll be an incentive. For them to come, because we have some new blood. We have some, and I agree, why doesn't it have to? You just gotta start somewhere, right? I mean, in a way, we should be blessed that McDonald's would love to.
I personally don't want to see it be like Londonderry. I don't think that's such a great town.
So they have 30,000, trust me, I was on the budget committee there. Different, but what I'm saying is the circumstances are the same, right? Someone has to be the first, someone's coming in to step up to bat, which I think is awesome. I don't think that one McDonald's is gonna be indicative of a fast food chain down the road, I don't think that's what our town is looking for. But I do think it might be a nice start, I know like, my short time here, we got a nice cute little coffee shop that is in Pembroke and different things. I
Yeah,
don't know.
I mean, it's nice, it's very big to me, it's in the town, it's just, it's going to impact streets and surrounding areas, back on the streets.
Well, I'm sure we're gonna have trash barrels, I'm sure.
No, on the sidewalks on School Street. It's all over.
Yeah, it's everywhere, if you go to Hooks.
So we're gonna increase is what I'm saying. Yep.
I mean, you're gonna have trash barrels, right? We can't
We've
help.
got trash barrels at Dunkin' Donuts.
Right, at this time, I'd like to invite the other,
Yeah.
members here to, they have anything to say. So, Sean is already on public sewer? Yeah. You're representing across the street, your neighbor?
Yeah.
Feelings on it?
Or across the street and that, I just kind of wanted to see the plan, what. How things were laid out and potentially how it would affect us either way. Positively, I think the one question I have, and what I see is the entrance onto Turnpike. The road's pretty beat up in that, I don't know if there's any plans to improve that road at least to the entrance exit of the. I wasn't here for any earlier meetings and don't mention that, I just was more curious.
Yeah, I think that's, yeah, the upgrading, repairing of that road has been one of the agenda items that's talked about. And I think it was suggested that maybe the council want to foot the bill for that. It was the same suggestion as putting across. Came back with a total price tag of all that, saying, hey, that's way too much money.
Right.
You can't do it. I think that's where that was left.
Yeah. It doesn't affect me either way, it would just be, you can see it's fall apart.
Yeah, yeah. I just want, Mr. Road Agent, if I could maybe. Is that road on, I know that the town tries to have,
it is in the next 5 years, I don't know where, off the top of my head, where it sits in the next 5 years. But it does sit on the or in the CIP for the roads.
and, my thoughts, just to interject on that, is, if I was gonna put in a brand new restaurant, then I would want a nice road in front, not up in with heavy potholes and sawcut areas, where the utility connections are gonna be made with only those sawtooth areas filled in and not necessarily, you know, engineering firm, you know that homogeneity is a key to road longevity, and yeah, it's anything but homogeneous when you start cutting areas in, and patching certain areas and it's been unraveled pretty quick. And I don't know how. What the avenue for that would be, but I think it would be the only best interest,
I agree.
to come up and pay for that road.
Yeah, I know in past TRC meetings, it was mentioned repaving the entirety of Turnpike Street. I think we can explore an option of repaving. I know there's like some major potholes right at the intersection. We could pay from like this saw cut or connecting sewer to the intersection of Collins. Want to do that. Work that in, we can work with both the road department and DPW. Rather putting bill for the entire repaving of Turnpike Street.
So you suggest that from your first saw cut, which
Yeah, from the first.
west saw cut to
Yeah, further south, right at the driveway down to Pinewood Road, because I know right at this intersection, this is pretty choppy and potholes, and that's something they want to do anyway, because like you said, customers would like to complain.
well, there's more saw cut further west, to the west of driveway towards School Street, River Road.
Yeah, so this is for the disconnect of the existing sewer. That's still being worked with Allenstown Sewer Department, so this saw cut might go away. As they're considering having this cut and cap at the property line, expanding that sewer, so you don't have to cut into that road there. And this is to disconnect and reconnect a new water service and an electric.
Yeah, it's a pretty big saw cut. On the road.
Yeah, we can straighten this one out, make that look nice, and then this one could come. Yeah. Something we put with the balance it and, or it's something they're willing to. Kind of meet in the middle on repaving the entirety of Turnpike Street.
Is that something?
My only concern is that, I mean, we've seen it with the school project, we've seen it with other projects in town, Hillsborough. When they redid, is the amount of the pounding that road take between construction coming in, out, filling in, out, buildings being destroyed, buildings being built, you know, so for really, I mean, yeah, from your side road, it's the probably my best guess is there's probably be much of a when you guys are done. Knowing the shape of the roads in now. And that's my bigger concern with that part of the project.
Yeah, we have our construction entrance shown here, so ideally they'll just be coming off Pine Road and entering through here. Yes, there will be like the saw cutting at the right where the existing flush pavement meets Turnpike Street right away, just to replace it with that landscaping, but we anticipate all the work will be on property. With the exception of saw cuts for utilities, which we can get the required permits for your DPW and utility permits to do.
Sure, and I mean, it's what we've seen locally, you know, with some of the larger projects in town is just, you know, I mean, after we put, you know, a couple dozen cement trucks through there and they're turning on that road and they're loaded and gravel trucks in and out, whatever else that's necessary, that's where we see the main damage to the road, especially so depending on when you're built.
So like this area.
Yeah.
It's like the B%. Yeah, that's the area I think McDonald's is willing to mill and overlay as needed, just to kind of clean up that intersection as well. I agree, I think it's in the operator and owner's best interest to have customers not turning out and then beating up their car trying to make a right out on 28.
Yeah, in the construction plan, all equipment would come in through 28, not on School Street.
Yeah, that's how I sort of envision it happening. I'm not the contractor on this. We'll have to file with Nifty's anyway, as the site's over an acre. And then that will kind of sort through all the construction entrances and other measures being done during construction to prevent erosion and stone from the site.
Yeah,
Is that even something that we can require?
it's complicated,
That's complicated.
it's complicated, but
The short answer is no, not without doing something else. Alright, because offsite exactions cannot be required unless they're to improve something, not to maintain something, not to repair something, but to improve something. This, if the board was to require something, can't require it as an offsite exaction. So that leaves you with another avenue, which is, the board could require that the applicant post a performance bond with the town for repair, not for upgrading the road, but just to repair the road, should that occur. One other thing to mention is that Connor made a comment that the applicant would consider from top of the driveway down to Route 28. That's what's called a representation, and it's not binding unless it's made a condition of approval by the board. So there are a couple of things to consider here. All right, okay.
that's what we're trying to,
As we work through it, but that can be done in deliberation outside of the public hearing portion.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your expertise.
I'd like to offer something, to answer that one resident's concern about how there's all that started. I've been writing, freelance stories for the Hooksett Bridge newspaper. And this was for the town. The story I wrote on February 7th of this year, called Hardware Store Future Uncertain. It's about that future of the hardware store, only hardware store for miles around in Townstown is now uncertain. John's Hardware has been a landmark enterprise for several decades and has served area residents with every need, from nuts and bolts to shrubs and plants to pallets of wood pellets. It was sold by Allenstown Realty to Spiros Athanas in April of 2023. So that's when the transaction happened. Nothing really happened till within the last year. The funny thing is, Mr. Athanas told me he was thinking of building either a dollar store or a restaurant. I said, we don't need another dollar store, we got them. So that kind of narrowed down his choices. So that's to give you a little bit of a history. And the problem I find is I try to write stories that inform people about what's going on in and around our town. And it's up to residents to pay attention.
Really, it's also up to the boards to tell the residents. I don't know what paper you're writing, I've not seen it. So I wouldn't have read it, I don't know that newspaper.
It's certain information about what's going on in your town. That the town website, it's, I try to contribute as much as I can because other people, everybody else writes stories about what's going on in the town. To the extent that I do. And by publishing it in other venues, I'm trying to broaden the possibility that people can find out what's going on in town.
Well, I don't know that newspaper, I'm sorry, I haven't read it, not aware of it. I've been trying to go to the board meetings to learn more about what's going on in town and pay attention to the website. You sign up
The
for
reason I write
text.
stories is because I find
Sign up for
things that are going on in meetings,
text them.
in very minutes of those meetings. And people typically don't spend time reading through dry minutes of meetings. So the stories that are written, more focused, and more direct. Yeah, just one example. Or how many people actually saw it, I'm not gonna have a review.
I'd like to continue to move forward with any additional comments that
Oh, you can do it through here.
not made, yes, they're permanent.
No one's discussed this, so it's really quick. Everyone's gonna be coming in, they're gonna take that left, right? So you're gonna have oncoming traffic. Is there gonna be like a yield sign or a flashing yellow light or anything? Because that, I know they go pretty fast over here. and it's just down there.
Where,
Right, like people are gonna be coming in here and then they're gonna take a left to go in, did I understand that correctly?
that's what option you've been down School Street, making a right and coming in, anything else?
Is like, there's gonna be oncoming traffic, so when they take that left, is there gonna be like a yield sign or anything?
And there'll be stop controls at the entrance here, anything in Pine Wood Road. I mean, people can make lefts down Turnpike Street today. Anything in Pine Wood Road, that's a DOT right away, so we have to.
Cause I think
They
it's
would
gonna
have
be
to-
accidents right now, you know what I mean? But yeah, if at least if there's a sign, a yield or something, right? Cause even if you put a sign, people don't know, it's something new to the town, so they'll be like right away, oh. I'm going straight and let them wait, or, you know, I don't know, I'm just trying to make it proactive, that's. Yeah.
Okay, all right. All right, in the interest of moving on, at this point, I'll close the, public hearing. And or will deliberate on the application.
Mr. Chairman, just as my process, public comment period was not closed. And I mean, there was some comments exactly. So, so enter the deliberation portion of the meeting, which is where the planning board members. Discuss discuss the application, consider all of the input that has been provided or from the applicants, on traffic, from anybody else, from members of the public. And then move forward with the decision on the application.
Like to lead off the comments.
Feel like it was complete, but I am concerned about that portion of Turnpike Street, that not being a finding. I would like to be inferred that is to be addressed. It makes sense that McDonald's would want to address it, they don't want. But
Pavement of
yes,
Turnpike Street.
Yeah.
From the driveway to 28.
yes,
So the board can include that as a condition of approval.
I would like to do that.
That's fine. So once the board finishes deliberations and is ready to render a decision, we can then go through the list of potential conditions of approval and decide what those are. We can add or remove, the board can add or remove whatever they want from the list of conditions that Matt wanted and has proposed. And then come up with a final list or conditions, which then will be included in the motion. And which will be included in the notice of decision. The notice issued after the board makes a decision. Also for full transparency, under current law and relatively new law, RSA 676:3I. If they now require that, and I'm going to quote it, I'm going to read it on probation. The decision shall include specific written findings of fact that support the decision. Failure of the board to make specific written findings of fact supporting a disapproval shall be grounds for automatic reversal and remand by the Superior Court on appeal. In accordance with the time periods set forth in RSA 677:5 or RSA 677:15, unless the court determines that there are other factors warranting the disapproval. Basically, what that means. You can't say no without evaluating. That's what it means. This is just make sure everybody understands that. And say a relatively new law, this law, and if the board moves forward with a disapproval and would not provide valid reasons for that disapproval, then should the applicant appeal that decision to Superior Court, it's the law says it's automatic remanding factors. So I want to make sure you have all the information.
Yeah, okay, all right. So, any other thoughts? my thoughts is I've gone through the articles and the standards that have to be met for approval. And other than the things, the points that have been brought up, I don't see any other points that any fatal flaws basically in that application. The work for your conditions and the engineer. Discussed by that, and he's what we were talking about on the roadway there. So if anybody concurs with that, generally, we should work on that, on that list of conditions. And then we can take the vote if they from that point.
I'm good with that.
Good. And you suggested that the owner would be willing to go along with paving from the highway to 28.
For the driveways to 28, can you get, DPW approvals and DOT if necessary?
And then the further on that, for. Yeah, thank you.
I just asked that, if that does become a condition, then it's written pretty specifically that it's here and it doesn't include all of the.
Yeah, and to that point, we were talking about the road taking a beating from construction. If construction vehicles were to come in through River Road or School Street, then those roads would probably take beatings, and the other end of the turnpike would probably take beatings. I don't know, if you want to discuss. Have you have a feeling on construction vehicles coming in through 28 exclusively, or is that something that we need to think about more? Or should we make a condition that if it follows any roads that are, might be mentioned repair? If other roads are damaged by construction?
So I think,
Sorry, Matt, go ahead.
oh, I was gonna say, so I think for Route 28, that's a state road, maintained by DOT. I think, I mean, that's their jurisdiction. Our, the town's jurisdiction would be those roads that are not the state roads. So you could put,
Yes, I'm not talking about damage to 28, I'm talking about damage to Turnpike Street. Or
okay.
if the construction vehicles come in off Route 3 or through River Road or School Street, if those were damaged, because I don't know if that's in his, I'm not 28, I don't know if that's what they want to do, but I guess I'd like to have a provision that if they do indeed come in.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of this could be that there's limitations on what roads they use, just describing, the bare minimum of roads that they would need to access the site. That may limit the scope of the impact and put a little more clarity on the bond.
Yeah, so that sounds like you're pointing towards Route 28 access to that site. And then also that would leave some pain, would antagonize more residents on School Street. Is it something from the
to limit construction vehicles to Route 28?
Yeah, so basically what I'm hearing is that construction vehicles would enter and egress the site via Route 28 Pinewood Road and would not continue further northbound on Turnpike Street than the entrance to the proposed restaurant. Which means they couldn't use any other road.
They couldn't use, for sure.
So that's any damage and antagonizing.
That seems reasonable. And we can relay that to the GC once they're
Yeah.
I have a question or something to add on this. Not on construction, so if we're not ready to discuss that, I can save it.
Yeah, say that just one moment, please.
Oh, yeah, I have, it's just a quick, does this town have like pre-construction meetings or anything before something has begun? And sometimes those types of operational challenges are addressed. I'm not sure if you do.
Yeah, I think
That's
it's on track. Yeah, I believe our town engineer will be participating in those pre-construction meetings and regular schedule.
Both construction and sometimes it's a good thing to talk about.
Yeah, and make sure.
Let
that
me,
Those, yeah. And,
I'm gonna take a look really quick and grab the regs and see what it says about pre-construction meetings, just so we can have it handy.
good. All right, Ryan?
Yeah, mine is more post occupancy. I think when we're ready to talk about conditions, I just wanted, since we're in a discussion period, wanted to mention it now, is that I know that given feedback from both the town as well as members of the board on potential concerns on either going on to 28 or onto Turnpike Street or others. I wonder if it would be appropriate. I know that the traffic study was conducted, which we'll of course respect. But I wonder if there's a post-occupancy traffic review that could potentially be conducted, I don't know, 12 months, 18 months after the restaurant opening, just to address some of the concerns both mentioned by both members of the board and the town on safety concerns or traffic concerns on the impacted roads once the actual impact of the restaurant opening can be reviewed and monitored. So just wanted to bring that up as a point of discussion.
Yeah, I think what I understood, you said that the select board would make any determination on whether or not roads are designated one way or anything.
Yeah.
This is less about the select board making the determination about one way or the other. This is just a post-occupancy traffic review or traffic study conducted after the restaurant itself opens, should this board decide to approve the application to move forward.
I might ask Matt Monahan to comment on that. Matt, if you heard what Ryan was asking about, I know Central New Hampshire Regional Planning Commission often conducts.
Yes. So I think a post-construction traffic study, I don't know, I haven't seen those taking place very often. I think, I mean, in the event that the town did one, I don't know what they would do if, like, based on the findings, would it be to kind of check it against what the planning process traffic counts were showing? I would assume
that, and I think obviously one of the reasons, one of the things brought up in the TRC and in this meeting were around prohibitive costs associated with either the crosswalk or a change in traffic patterns or anything like that, which absolutely is valid on behalf of the applicant. I think there's no reason based on the data to suggest mitigation that should trigger mitigation efforts now. However, should some of those concerns be realized in the future, either with any of us who've driven on Turnpike Street turning onto the 28, know how difficult that left can be after making that left. So should the traffic or any other impacts to safety or traffic be realized 12 to 18 months post occupancy, I think that it could potentially, we could make a condition that could potentially trigger mitigation efforts or cooperative mitigation efforts between the town and McDonald's to help mitigate and solve for that. So that's just the discussion point that I wanted to raise. I don't know if a condition is appropriate based on that, but I do think it bears discussion.
So my first thought is I would, because you want to try and address a lot of those things up front, just because it's hard after the fact. I wonder, my first thought is I'd like to ask the town engineer I feel like that would be a question, not procedurally, should we do a traffic count after, but is there any more we can do on the mitigation side up front to address some of these concerns? That could be a question, to pose to the town engineer. And I do, just on a quick sidebar back to the pre-construction meetings, so section 801B, so on page 20, talks about pre-construction meetings for site plans are conducted in accordance with subdivision regulations section 703. So then you go to 703 and there is bond, there's construction inspection schedules, there's performance bond guidance, and there's general, release of bond stuff, and those kinds of things. If, if the board wanted to discuss that further. I mean, there's a lot here on that topic. But I think getting back to that first question on the post-construction or just general traffic mitigation, like that's something. Actually, let me grab the town's engineer memo. See if I can find that. Hold on a sec. Might take me a minute. To see what the discussion was on traffic. Where are we?
And broadly speaking, Matt, I think traffic is one component that I'm referencing. I think safety as well, congestion on the roads. I think it's less about the actual traffic itself, but the other things that traffic could impact, right? And I did pull while we were waiting, I did pull a couple of different examples in New Hampshire where conditional approval for that could be triggered based on future mitigation efforts, like that there is an established history of planning boards making conditional approvals like this, but it may or may not, they're different scenarios. I think one was a car wash in Bedford, and so it's not the same as a fast food restaurant, but car flow could be similar. So I just thought it was potentially relevant.
Okay. Yeah, could you send me that?
Yeah.
I'd be curious to take a look. And then secondly, I think if the board could kind of crystallize some of the transportation related questions, those could be posed to the town engineer for some guidance about crafting conditions too. If that's something that you guys were interested in. Trying to see in the memo, where is informational comments? Yeah. Yeah, just food for thought. I mean, I think just kind of, yeah. I mean, I would just ask the question, do you want more feedback from the town's engineer on traffic related stuff to help you narrow down some of those potential conditions?
What do you think, Chad?
I mean, so much of Brian's looking at, it's all involving that state road, right? I mean, state road's tough to cross.
And I did it today, there are two cars, I was the second car in queue, and it was 10 seconds before.
Sure. Sure. No, and during the day, I mean, driving around town in trucks, we avoid that intersection. We avoid the River Road 28 intersection trying to go across. I mean, we avoid those. We use the lights because it's easy and safe.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna see that. I mean, if someone's coming out to McDonald's, especially if you're local and you know the roads, you may not choose to try to make left there. You may go out the other way, or you may go down River Road because you know, especially if you see a few vehicles starting there, or if a lot of cars coming in and you know you're gonna have a hard time, then you just reroute on your own. And the thing is, you would do that. That would solve the rush hour stuff, and then all the other times of day you can still go drive normally through without major runway things and major hindrances in your normal transportation, which will probably anger a whole lot of citizens who are not McDonald's customers. So the traffic study was done and said there wouldn't be much. It was peer reviewed.
So
It was also reviewed by the fire department and police
Yeah.
department. They have not expressed.
Yeah.
And I mean, the last one we went through, I disagreed with the one that they did for the Canal Street project. And they were absolutely right. I never thought that would be the case, you know, looking at the traffic and being in town all day, it really there, I mean, their traffic study and Gail reviewed it and they were right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I trust Gail as, you know, our engineers is, you know, reviewing it and doing their job.
Yeah.
So, that doesn't mean that 8 o'clock in the morning, it's not gonna be easy to take a left on 28.
Yeah.
But.
Which is currently the case in most,
But
but it can be done if you're patient and most. people would try to avoid it.
You can figure out very quickly that it's easier to go around the route and come back to 28 that way. You know, through control intersection, which you control it as fast as. Yeah.
So,
So this might not even be something on the table, but what if we change the entrance and exit to being on Route 3 instead of?
It's a state road, you would never get a permit for it.
Okay.
that is.
Okay.
The tourists are going to get any driveway permits for state roads in too.
Okay.
Hi there, this is Caitlin Sheridan, alternate planning board member. I have a procedural question, which may be for the regional planning. I realized earlier this evening, the board went ahead and determined that there is no regional impact. My question is that contestable or appealable by the abutting municipalities if they have a differing opinion?
So the way that works is regional impact, the way the courts have historically ruled on that is if the board votes yes or no, right? Like there's no real automatic criteria. And I can give you an example of another community in the region where they had an application. It wasn't them, it was actually the town next to them. The zoning board had an application. It was in another planning region. And what happened is they thought there should have been a regional impact. Our town and our region did. And all that happened is the board, in that case, it was zoning board. So they just did a rehearing and they ruled it was a regional impact. All regional impact does is it just gives the abutting communities and the planning commission the opportunity to comment on the regional impact. So it just delays at a meeting and it just results in comments that the board may or may not consider. So I just want to have clarity on that. And then secondly, if somebody did appeal it, the appeal would have to focus on if the board did or did not vote, not really the content of that vote.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate the answer.
Sure.
Matt, I sent you over, I think 3 links.
Oh, cool. Okay, thanks. Hold on, I got.
There's
like
also another
8,
one I
7.
didn't send you that's a little bit different, but it's it's like a 2000 case with dairy, and it basically holds that on-site performance conditions imposed at the time of the plan approval are permissible and legitimate, but that's sort of what I was driving at is less about traffic, right? It's just performance conditions for whatever this board deems as appropriate to guarantee both the safety for residents and any visitors that may be using this McDonald's, as well as, you know, keeping things in accordance with our master plan of, you know, keeping residents safe, providing, you know, adequate traffic infrastructure. I think there's enough precedent and enough supporting, you know, items in the regs to potentially support performance conditions. But again, I'm making my comment and opening it to the board for discussion.
Yeah, I mean, you can have so in the RSAs, one of the things that they describe is what are called exactions. And I think Mike mentioned them earlier. And those are very specific. Those can go to roads, those can go to drainage. There's 4: roads, drainage, sewer, and water. Yeah, that's the 4. And you know, improvements, things like that. Performance bonds are just that, right? I mean, that's a a condition of approval you can put on something to make sure the roads are not destroyed. You see that a lot with gravel pits, and things like that. For the life of the gravel pit permit, you'll see that. But yeah, conditions, offsite improvements, actually, yeah, and performance stuff are definitely things that you can put on there. And I just want to again reiterate too, if the board would like some more consultation with the town engineer, that could be something to think about to try and get a better understanding on what type of conditions, to deal with safety, to deal with damage, and, performance and those kinds of things. You can reach out to the town's engineer again if you need to.
And if we did that, that would involve a continuance.
It would, yeah. And I would just, just say that, hey, look, yeah, if you want to just be clear on what you're continuing for and what the ask is. I think, and I know the applicant had mentioned they'd like some good clarity on what potential conditions would be. And I think it could be helpful to them. It could be helpful to the abutters and to the board to know specifically here is traffic related conditions as opposed to a broad condition that says something like, performance bond for the roads, just be very specific. I think that would help all parties too. And I know there was talk about the man, it's been a long day. The pre-construction meetings. I think that could be something that we could have the engineer weigh in as well. Would the applicant be okay with that? Just to have the board get some clarity on narrowing down those conditions?
Board needs any further.
Yeah.
That's my question. Does the board need any further? I'm just putting it out there.
Yeah, whenever my thoughts are with the potential conditions of approval that Matt had laid out. I think we've already take out some of those, such as number 5 and 7. You're looking like that on page 4 and 7 of your review. From here, you should just go starting at 1 and work down, and then you have that.
I have it right here. You're starting with number 1, the alteration terrain permit.
Yep.
We actually don't trigger an alteration terrain permit for this site, just the construction general permit, which is what number 3 is as well. So,
So as these are amendments, potential conditions of, are we moving on to potential?
Yes, let's hand down some potential conditions of approval if we all agree. If that's sufficient for us to make a vote on, then we do that. If we get stuck and we're not sure, then think about continuance. But if we can do it, let's give it a shot. So you're saying that number 1 is triggered by 3?
Number 1 in NHDS alteration terrain permit, that's only triggered if you're over an acre and within a shoreline buffer, where we are over an acre, but we're not within the shoreline buffer. And then the other threshold there is over 100,000 square feet, so 2.3 acres, which we don't meet. So we're not required to submit an alteration terrain permit, and we only trigger a NHDES construction general permit.
Anna, do you agree with that?
Yeah, I do. Yep.
Can we take
Okay, are you making those?
Yeah.
Yep. Thank you.
So then the next potential condition is, the decision for variance for sign height is submitted, that is correct.
So that's what we've already got that.
Just correction, that is sign quantity and area, we comply with all height requirements.
Quantity and area?
Yep.
Yeah, for that one, yeah, it's just a matter of making sure that the variance document, because I hadn't seen a notice of decision, so that is, in the project folder and, at town hall. And it's good for the applicant to actually just track that on the plan and a plan note saying, variance was granted X date for X things, just so that it's linked to the plan and there's no, questioning as to whether or not it was granted.
Yeah, it was granted on April 24 of 2025, ZBA case number 2025-0.
Mm-hmm.
We'll just keep the number the same, but we'll renumber them obviously later. Number 3, filing of notice of intent for EPA. Any concerns about that?
That's the construction general part.
Receipt of town driveway permit. Okay. As previously we talked about comply with TRC issues, we've already gone through that. So my take is that can be removed.
Yep.
Our sewer department concerns, I know you're working on that, but we'll leave that in there to make sure it's a conditional approval. Number 7, add a sign to traffic leaving the site turns left only. That's not within the purview of the planning board to require that. Because it's traffic flow issue. So I would recommend to the board that that be removed.
Yep.
Number 8, compliance with any recommendations made by the town's engineer or the sewer district engineer. Read that.
What are the recommendations made by the town engineer?
Right, that's pretty,
It's pretty broad. You could come back and say,
general.
Can you talk to that, Alon?
Yeah, I mean, I would just refer to the memo. Typically, when a town engineer makes comments, the applicant responds, and then the town engineer will come back and say, yeah, I agree with their mitigation strategies. So I would just say in relation to memorandums provided during the review process.
So recommendations made in memorandums by the town's engineer.
Yeah, I think that works.
I just want to make sure that because I think one of the recommendations made in one of the supplemental peer review letters was the crosswalk, which we talked through, or the pedestrian interconnection. So I just want to make sure that that's not being lumped in with this condition.
You would not want that to be liable.
Yeah.
We have the list of the engineers. Recommendation.
And then the general administrative commission, yes, including the following. Professional stamps and signatures, surveyor and scientists, as well as owner signatures need to be on the final plan.
Yeah, but let's get back to 8. And I'm sure we finalize that. We're not compliance with recommendations made by the town engineer. There's 2 things: is town engineer and there's the sewer district.
Yeah, well, we're both.
Yeah. So to the point of not having anything on here, we don't all agree on. Do we have that? Are we talking about future recommendations or?
No, I've already.
I wouldn't sign anything that was totally nebulous.
Yeah, it seems pretty wide open to me,
Yeah.
like anything could be, like most they could recommend doubling the parking lot or something.
Yeah,
Just any
right,
crazy
it's
thing.
saying that.
So these numbers have already been submitted and they've already been reviewed.
I've gotten are you referring to the peer review letters?
Yes.
Okay.
So that's already been incorporated.
We've responded to those. We haven't seen a response back to our response that says like, this is okay, we agree. So I think that the construction of that pedestrian connection to senior housing facility isn't necessarily closed out on our part. We haven't seen a response back on that necessarily. So that's where we just don't want to have that covered.
Yeah.
So, I mean, one strategy too is to circle back if, there's 2 ways to address town engineer comments, just in general, right? You can do a broad condition saying comply with whatever they suggest, or you can, circle back and have them provide that second review to say, yes, I'm good with everything they did. I think in light of the conversation about the sidewalk tonight too, that could be conveyed to the town engineer also. But those are kind of the two ways to look at that. Because you really do want the town engineer to be able to say, yeah, you know, my concerns have been addressed, or this one is still outstanding.
So from what, paraphrasing what Connor said, they have responded to the town engineer's memo, but have not received a response to their response from the town engineer.
Correct.
And what are these items that are outstanding?
I think the items that are outstanding, was the paving the entirety of Turnpike Street, which is sounds like we'll
Reading that off.
take
So
that off.
we'll address that as a condition of approval, a specific condition of approval,
Correct.
further
Okay.
down the list.
And then, from supplemental peer review letter from Gail, I believe. They recommend the construction of the sidewalk. I can't find it at this moment, but I can find a specific comment.
Well, I wanna, could we word the condition of approval? I move along. With the exception of the construction of a sidewalk on Route 28.
Yes. Yep.
So compliance with any recommendations made.
Yes.
Okay, so compliance with any recommendations made in memorandums by the town engineer or the school district engineer, with the exception. The exception. Of constructing. A crosswalk. On Pinewood Road. That work for you?
That works.
Yep.
And then my ask too is because there is that other other recommendation of paving all of Turnpike Street. That when we get to that condition, you could say like in lieu of recommendation to pave entire thing. And then I do have a question on that one too, since Pinewood is DOT road, and if we are required to pave into that, would that permit be filed by the town then to pave onto DOT or that?
That's a good question.
Because I know we spoke with DOT regarding the pedestrian connection a while back, just to understand the feasibility of it, and they mentioned that for the whole connection that's now we're getting rid of would have been filed by the town. So I don't know how that would relate with just something as minor as paving.
So is far, and we just did a couple of these because we paved onto it, which is a permit process through the DOT. It's much like a driveway permit.
Okay.
But if you have any issues or if they want it filed, it's
it can
two
be,
sheets, it's not a lot.
it can be worked out.
Yeah.
So it's a quick filing.
It's not $15,000.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Thank you.
They just want to know that it's being done.
All right, and then the other part of eight is the sewer district. Engineer, is there anything else with?
Nope.
Leave that in, as is?
Leave that in.
Yeah. All right.
All right, so let me just read it one more time, make sure that everybody is agreeing. Compliance with any recommendations made in memorandums by the town's engineer or the sewer district engineer, with the exception of construction of a crosswalk on Pinewood Road.
Yeah, crosswalk and sidewalk maybe.
Yeah. Crosswalk
Crosswalk.
and associated infrastructure.
Yeah.
Next meeting
Okay.
on 28.
Let me get it down on crosswalk and then. Associated. Infrastructure. Alright, so let me just go through it again. Reading again. Compliance with any recommendations made in memorandums by the town's engineer or the sewer district's engineer, with the exception of construction of a crosswalk and associated infrastructure improvements on Pinewood Road. That work? Alright. Okay, very good.
Yes, please.
So the general administrative conditions of approval including the following. Professional stamps of signatures, surveyor and wetland scientist, as well as owner signatures need to be on the final plan. All waivers granted and conditions of approval need to be on the final plan. Final plans as approved by the planning board shall be provided to the planning board in a digital format. All areas of public improvement inside of the public right of way, including utilities, drainage structures and slope, shall be depicted in an easement on the plan set. Additionally, said easement area shall be depicted in a deed and recorded at the Merrimack County Registry of Deeds. Notice of decision to be recorded in the Merrimack County Registry of Deeds. Driveways and any associated drainage shall be inspected by the Youngstown Highway Department prior to the issuance of certificate of occupancy. If needed, the Highway Department may ask for outside engineering review paid for by the applicant. Post construction inspection escrow in an amount determined by the town's engineer for inspection of all public infrastructure, roads and drainage structures. A letter of credit and performance agreement acceptable to the town's engineer and town attorney shall be provided for all public improvements depicted in the plans. And then the additional condition that will be discussed by the board is that the applicant will pave Turnpike Street from the West London Highway southbound to Pinewood Road in lieu of paving the entirety of Turnpike Street. Okay.
Yeah, and that all construction is here by us.
That's another one, that's. It's down. The final potential condition of approval that I have at least is that construction vehicles must use Pinewood Road for access and egress and may not proceed further north on Turnpike Street than the entrance of the proposed restaurant.
I like it.
Or the footprint.
Yeah, I think just footprint of
The footprint of the
the
property.
development, because that's well, it's, yeah, they still need to do some.
Then the footprint of the proposed development, is that what you want to say? And the footprint. Of the proposed development. Okay, so just to read that one more time. Construction vehicles must use Pinewood Road for access and egress and may not proceed further north on Turnpike Street than the footprint of the proposed development. Does that work? Okay. Are there any other conditions of the board?
Can't think of anything that covers. Anything?
Okay.
Does anybody want that reread? Events?
I think I got.
Okay, so we with cycle
Agenda. What's the application for?
BB dash 02 dash 2025.
Okay, so I'm looking for a motion to conditionally approve application 2-02-25 with all the conditions previously listed. As the proposal complies with the zoning ordinance and the subdivision regulations, given the plans presented in the waivers permitted.
So just one correction will be the site plan regulations.
Oh, yes. Yes.
So moved.
Excuse me, that's fine.
All right, so that was, so moved by Kathleen, okay?
Second by Ryan.
We'll call vote.
Kathleen, I.
It's final approval.
Yes, sir.
Vote in favor. And nothing to technically, factually to object to. I just abstain.
You can abstain.
You choose to, yeah.
Or, yeah.
I hate losing our only partners.
Scott, any,
Yeah. No matter what we.
are you officially abstaining, Michael? You're officially abstaining?
Yeah.
Okay, Joanna?
Joanna, I.
Ryan, aye.
And the chair.
And you, that's right. Okay. Mr. Chairman, on a vote of 4 in the affirmative, 1 abstention, and with the conditions of approval as discussed, the application is approved. Is it, sir?
Yeah, we have a county family, would folks like to go over minutes and other business tonight, would you like to? Push that to the next?
Hey, Chairperson and Mike, this is Brian. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Can you please inform the applicant that the escrow needs to be reestablished for this additional review by the town engineer? Although there are funds in the current escrow, those were allocated to perform on-site drainage inspection. The applicant does have the hourly rates from the town's engineer, and he can submit a check accordingly to what he feels as though the review should cost.
You get that?
Did you get that?
Who's submitting, so am I getting something from Matt Monahan, or am I?
No.
These things say we.
Yeah, can you, is that coming from the engineer, Brian, or is that something you already possess? And can you share that with the applicant?
I certainly will share it with the applicant, but I'd like to get a check in here as soon as possible. And so that the review can occur, because you continued this case to a date certain. If it's in 2 weeks, that's a lot of work. If it's next month, then we have some time. So I just feel as though the applicant can look at the hourly rates and provide some additional funds, and we can go from there.
Hold on, we just, there's some confusion there. This case is not continued, this application has been approved. So. We just, the board to approve it by 4 votes in the affirmative and with 1 abstention. So the application is approved. So one escrow fund is needed.
Application
I
is
think
approved.
they would need, so if you look at some of the general conditions at the bottom there, there's a discussion about post-inspection escrow, you know, for that process. So there would need to be escrow associated with the engineer's involvement there. And I think, yeah, yep.
That's post-construction.
Yeah. Maybe, I don't know if you already have submitted for during construction. But, I mean, that's all per reg, and that's nothing.
Our purview is pre-construction.
Yeah.
Now that the application is approved,
Yeah.
Brian Arsenal, I think that would be a matter for you to take up with the applicant.
Yeah,
regarding
we provided.
And having sufficient fund
Okay.
for any inspections.
Yeah, 'cause as far as the peer review, we provided escrow for the initial peer review, and also provided an additional one for the supplemental peer review, as well as the escrow for the regional planner. So I think we're, and as I said, there's funds in there. I don't know how much. I can't see that. So
yeah,
just some clarity on what he's looking for.
So like we asked in the comment that you get with Brian Arsenal, the inspector, and ensure that Brian is satisfied that there are sufficient funds available
for
any post-construction.
For post-construction.
activities.
Okay.
I believe that was the ask.
Yes. Okay.
Thank you.
Person, I saw the list of conditions, and I didn't know if the town engineer had to give any input. on those conditions. So that's why I was confused, but thank you for the clarity.
Anything else, Brian? Input on meeting permit or we move on? No. Okay,
Thank you.
Due to the late hour, you want to do the minutes and everything, you want to put that in the next meeting?
Sure. With that.
Yeah, it's super quick.
Okay. All right, yeah. What is this at?
Sure.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to accept the unapproved minutes of July 2nd, 2025. A second.
Roll call vote.
One, aye.
Ryan, I.
Okay,
And then we really.
there's an email that went out, this has all the,
Okay, which.
accepted bills.
You have a copy of it?
Yeah.
It's part of the digestion. And the only thing I'll say about it is that we now need to work on making some ordinance changes based on what's highlighted in green on that document. Brian, do you have anything further? On Arsenal? Brian Arsenal, do you have anything further?
Here earlier, before then.
Mike, did you ask me? I did not have anything to add. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Brian.
Thanks, Frank. Thanks, Matt.
Yep, no worries.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
All right, thank you.
Just next steps.
Next step, you will get a notice of decision.
Okay.
Within the next 5 days, and they will list all of the potential, all conditions of approval. And that will be required to be filed and from there, and then you can move from there, and now it's over to you and Brian. Work together on the next steps.
Sounds good.
Okay?
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else, Mike?
I don't have anything else.
I hear a motion to close this meeting.
Evening at 8:57 p.m.
I.
Ryan, I.
Yeah.
Okay, aye.
And adjourned at 8:58 p.m. Thank you, everybody, and let's take it in there, okay, come with us, Brian, you too.
Thank you.
Brian, and everyone, have a good night, we're out.
You two guys have a good night. We'll see ya.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah.
Just want to skip. It already look.
No.
Did this?
Well, that's a condition for approval. Yeah, but that's it.
I expected it to be about this time.
Yeah.
And I didn't.
Yeah, I don't understand. What do you want? For what?
There's only one.
I guess.
Person negative and
Yeah.
nine,
Okay.
but a lot of, she's talking about motorcycles doing wheelies and that's not an penalty, that's
Yeah.
current
Yeah,
patrol issue.
so everything under the memorandum. Everything under the memorandum between the two.
Like he said, you'll never have to.
I did, that was